Hi everyone, welcome to Good for the Game TV. It's our weekly soccer show. It takes place at 10 o'clock every Thursday night. I'm joined by a range of guests, but normally Mr. Reliable himself, Chris Sturdy at Good for the Game on Twitter. He's been writing previews feverishly all weekend. Looking forward to catching up with what he likes on the betting front. How are you, Chris?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Brent. Good shows earlier with Gary and also with the handicap show as well, going from strength to strength. Let's see what we can find in the football.
Yeah, let's hope we can find a few winners, and hopefully a few of the boys can give us some winners on the comments section as well. I suppose from a football point of view, a little bit quieter. We've got the English Premier League, but no PSL action, but we do have the MTN8 Cup final, and I was reading your preview on Good for the Game and interested to see it's the same two sides that contested last year.
Yeah, definitely. No PSL matches, unfortunately, but the MTN8 final Saturday night, it's in Durban. Supersport, Cape Town City, same two teams as you say from last year. Went all the way to the wire last year with Supersport winning on penalties. If we want to get this one out of the way now, I'm in the Supersport camp.
Right, well, just one of our guys joining us already, Vinilan Naidu, he says, surely the best bet of the weekend has to be Burnley at 21-10 to beat an awful Cardiff City. I'm not going to ask your opinion on that just yet, Chris, but I just wanted to mention that comment. So when we chat about that game, because I've actually also got a firm view on that game, done a bit of homework myself for the Premier League. It's going to be a great sporting weekend. We've got Ryder Cup golf. We've got rugby. If you have missed it, our handicap show took place earlier. Make sure you catch that on our YouTube channel as well. But Chris, let's get straight into the English Premier League action. And I'll bring up the betting on my screen. You won't see it, though, just so I can have a look. But the first game, the early kickoff, it's West Ham United versus Manchester United. And on the GG Gaming Gone Mad show, Gary Lenton made his best bet of the weekend, West Ham plus the draw at even money. And you can get 17-20 about Manchester United. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, Gary knows his football, and I wouldn't take him on that. I've actually fancied the draw 27-10. Man U 17-20 away from home. Not for me, man. I mean, they got rolled in the League Cup in midweek, held at home by Wolves last week. All sorts of rumours about Mourinho not getting on with Pogba in particular. West Ham, awful start, but then won away at Everton, and maybe more significantly, drew at home to Chelsea last week. I mean, I fancied Chelsea to win with quite a few goals in the game and ended up 0-0. Real solid display by West Ham. I wondered whether or not they might use that as a blueprint for this match, and that's what pointed me to the draw at 27-10.
Right, you going for the draw there, so Gary wouldn't mind if that arrived because he's gone West Ham plus the draw. Moving on to Wolves up against Southampton. Wolves have been pretty impressive this season so far. They haven't won that many games, but I think they've only lost one, and they're 8-10 to beat Southampton, who have perhaps been a bit disappointing. Yeah,
we like Wolves, don't we? I don't know. They won 1-0 at home. Was it against Burnley? And we fancied them to win by 2 or 3, and they sort of let us down that bit. But they got the job done in terms of what they wanted to do and got the 3 points. And then they follow up with a draw at Man U. Yeah, Southampton struggling. Their only win did come away from home at Crystal Palace. 8-10 Wolves seemed a bit short for me, to be honest. I've gone for 2 to 3 goals in total there, Brent, at 9-10. Bit of a fallback option for me, in all honesty. But there is some stats behind it in terms of there's been a lot of Premier League games have ended up in that way.
Yeah, I must say I'm in the Wolves camp there. 8-10 is admittedly perhaps a little bit shorter than I'd like to get involved in a game like this, but I'm happy to go with Wolves there to win this one. Let's move on to the next game, Chris. It's Everton against Fulham. Everton, to me, have been an expensive team to follow. They just haven't delivered. Fulham also perhaps been a little bit disappointing, and then 15-20 Everton, I certainly wouldn't be charging into that.
No, I agree with you, Brent. Anything odds on Everton, I wouldn't. They've only won one match all season. Got beat by West Ham in their last home game. Disappointing last week against Arsenal, I believe. I know we fancied goals in that. Arsenal won 2-0. Didn't actually watch that game myself. Fulham, yeah, also disappointing, although they play some good football at times. I actually make this another draw bet, and actually 3-1. I thought was fantastic value. I thought 3-1. That's what's out there at the moment. I had to double check it just before we came live, see if it was still there. But yeah, 3-1 generally available. I think that's a cracking bet. I wouldn't have confidence in either side, yeah. And Everton, no strangers to draws this season. Fulham, I think they might be a little bit better than what they've shown, but you couldn't back them with any confidence. So yeah, share of the spoils 3-1.
Yeah, I certainly like that logic. Two teams that are struggling to win the season. So, and I mean, you expect a draw in a game like this to be around 5-2. So looking at it at 61 to 23-1 is pretty good. Rick Carlison is back, says Vinala Naidu for the Toffees. So he does think Everton win and both teams score could be the way to go. And I guess, Chris, it's one of the things often, the team news is a big factor and late breaking team news as well. And it does often pay to sit back and wait a bit to place your bets.
Yeah, definitely. And Richarlison's got a lot of goals for Everton early season before he got himself sent off and copped a ban. I just don't think they've shown enough, even with him returning to warrant backing. Talking
about teams that haven't shown enough, we've got Huddersfield at home to Spurs. And Huddersfield are 6-1 to win at home, with Spurs 5-10. And I tell you what, I don't think it's a bad 5-10 shot. I know you're not a 5-10 punter. You're not the kind of guy to lump on. But this could be one for the accumulators, Chris.
Yeah, I guess so. If you're going to do it, I'd put it in a multiple rather than back it outright. Look, Huddersfield, only 2 points all season and only 3 goals. And yeah, that's a real telltale stat. Only 3 goals all season. I think they've only scored in 2 of their 6 matches. They haven't scored in any of their 3 home games. Spurs started well, then seemed to catch a crab. Good win at Brighton last week, though, which, I would say that Brighton are a better side than Huddersfield. Spurs haven't been keeping as many clean sheets as what you'd think, but maybe this is one, given that Huddersfield haven't scored at home. Spurs clean sheet is the right side of even money, maybe 23-20, somewhere around there. And that would be one that would stand out for me.
Funny, the bet I liked here was Spurs -1 on the handicap at 12-10. And that we're probably very much thinking along the same lines there, because obviously for Spurs to get up on the handicap, I'd really like them to keep a clean sheet. So I think we're quite aligned on that game. Let's have a look at the next game on the card, and that's Arsenal up against Watford. It's a London derby. Arsenal have recovered well after a slow start. And Watford, well, I suppose you'd say they're starting to wobble after winning their first 4. They lost to Manchester United and then got an away draw at Fulham last week, but I was kind of hoping they'd hang on for the win because they did lead 1-0.
Yeah, indeed. And how that game didn't finish over, I don't know. I mean, loads of goals could have happened there. I think Watford were certainly value for the draw and maybe could have won the game on the balance of play and the balance of the chances that went in. Their only defeat was at home to Man U. We've sort of dissed Man U a little bit earlier in the show, so I don't want to put too much emphasis on that. But I don't think their confidence is dented in any way. Arsenal, as you say, lost their first 2, then 4 straight wins. So, really encouraging. None of those wins have come against, sides that were in form at the time, though. Maybe those fixtures fell right for them. Look, we caught a crab with Arsenal-Everton goals last week. We both fancied 3 or 4, and I'm prepared to give it another chance. Over 3.5 goals, even money.
Yeah, I'm with you there on that one. I also, funny enough, even as I was looking at this game, I kept thinking back to Arsenal's last game where they won 2-0, and I was like, very high on goals. So it is one of those things. I've been burnt a little bit, but I'm going to give them another chance. Over 3.5 goals. Maybe they'll get most of them themselves, or perhaps Watford can contribute quite a few as a Watford.
3-1.
3-1 to Watford. I like it, Chris. Thanks very much. And then, Chris, your best bet on the card last week, and we included it in the Good for the Game newsletter, which, by the way, you go onto the Good for the Game page towards the bottom right. You could subscribe to our weekly newsletters. We link to a few previews, a few of our YouTube previews, but we also share our best bets of the weekend. And you said Manchester City to score 3, and they romped in with 5 goals.
Yeah, it took them a while, eh? This is one thing about in-play betting, Brent, because City, they were always going to score against Cardiff, you would imagine, yeah? It was just a case of whether they get 1, 2, 3. Cardiff never scored. City were always going to win the game. And as soon as they broke the deadlock, Cardiff just melted, hey? And it was I don't know whether it took them 20, 25 minutes to score the first goal. And then, next time you looked, if you channel hopping on a Saturday, like I often do, City were 3-0 up and they went on to win 5-0. And that's the thing about in-play betting. I think we put that up at 15-20 last week, which I thought was a reasonable price anyway before the game. And obviously, if they score early doors, then and you haven't got your money on, you're not going to see that sort of price again unless they go a long time without another goal. But again, City, you can always say, let's just see how it goes. If they don't score in a few minutes, if they score early, I'll keep my money in my pocket. But they've got the ability to score 3 goals quick. You know, so always a team to watch in play, I think.
Let me ask you this question, because I was looking at this from a slightly different angle. Can Brighton get on the score sheet? Because both teams to score 13-10, and City have leaked the odd goal this season.
Yeah, if I just look at my notes here, City's home games, 3 home games, okay? Beat Huddersfield 6-1. So a poor Huddersfield that have only scored 3 goals all season, and one of them came away at City. Beat Newcastle 2-1. Newcastle, another struggler, but still managed to score away at City. And then the one that another one that went south, Fulham, we fancied to score at City, and they got rolled 3-0. That's City's only clean sheet at home, yeah?
Yes.
Now, Brighton, they're not the worst. I saw them at Liverpool. They got beat 1-0, but they gave a really good account of themselves. And in the second half, they came out with a bit more ambition, and Liverpool's keeper made a couple of good saves to keep Brighton out. That leads you towards sort of both teams to score. But what I've noticed here, Brent, and it's not a bet I've ever taken before, to be honest, rather than go both teams to score, how about this for multi-scores? Because I don't think Brighton are as bad as Huddersfield. I don't see them capitulating and getting 6 past them. Multi-scores, City to win 2-1, 3-1, or 4-1 at 32-10.
I like it. Where do you get that?
World Sports Betting, I saw that.
Oh, is it? Okay, I haven't seen that market before. So it's one of the
new one on me as well.
Okay, so what was it? 3-1, 4-1?
2-1, 3-1, or 4-1 to City. So, I mean, basically, you know, we need Brighton to score. Can you see Brighton scoring twice? No.
Yes.
Maybe City will keep a clean sheet. Yeah, that's possible. But if you think that Brighton can score 1 goal, then I would say that rather than go for both teams to score at maybe something like 12-10, 5-4, something like that. You know, what about City to win the game? 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. 32-10, I thought it seemed like a decent price to me.
Yeah, Peter Paul saying I think that Sporting Bet have got that bet as well. So very interesting one. I haven't seen that market, and I must say I do like it quite a bit. So that's a nice angle to find on the City game, which, let's face it, if you're just looking for match winners, that 1-10 shots, you're not going to get involved in that game. Also on Saturday, still we got Newcastle United up against Leicester. Newcastle here are shade over 15-10 with Leicester just under 2-1. That tells you that the bookmakers are expecting a close game. The draw here, Chris, is 9-4. Interested in your opinion on this one?
Yeah, Newcastle haven't won all season. The only thing that I can say in their defence is they have bumped some useful sides, you know, and especially at home. They've lost to Spurs, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Arsenal having hit form. So, you know, in some ways you could say no disgrace there. Leicester, 6 games, 3 wins, 3 defeats. Hit and miss. Very hard to catch right in that respect. And that makes me worry about calling this one. I guess you could sit on the fence and call a draw. But if we went to the stats, Brent, you know I like my 2 to 3 goals in total bets.
Right. It's
arrived in 4 of 6 Newcastle League games this season, and also 4 of 6 Leicester games this season. 9-10, 19-20. Look, I wouldn't be rushing in, but an interest bet, or if you really want to, you know, point it towards this game, 2 to 3 goals in total. It covers your 1-1s, a 2-0 Leicester, a 2-1 Newcastle, whatever. I don't see either side running away with it.
Yeah, funny. This game I was also battling a little bit for an angle, and I like your 2 to 3 goals there as well. I was also looking at both teams to score at 9-10. You know, Leicester's games this season have had quite a few goals, and if I have a look at their league fixtures, in fact, 5 out of their 6 league games have seen both teams score. It hasn't been quite as prolific. It's 4 out of 6 in Newcastle, but I was a little bit surprised, Chris, to get 9-10 about both teams to score. So once again, I guess you and I are kind of looking at the same thing, but perhaps from a slightly different angle.
Yeah, probably the 9-10 comes with like Newcastle's lack of goals, but when you bear in mind the sides that they've faced, especially at home, you can probably make an excuse for them there.
Yeah, I mean, I see they lost to Spurs. They've lost to Chelsea.
And Chelsea, yeah, it's 2-1.
Arsenal. I mean, how tough a start is that, you know, in front of your home fans? So it may well be that we get to see, we get our first real look at Newcastle at home this season, and perhaps what they're capable of.
Agreed.
Right, let's go on, I think, to what is the late kickoff, and without doubt the match of the weekend. It's Chelsea up against Liverpool. Chelsea 7-4, Liverpool 15-10, and you can get just over 5-2 the draw. And Chris, very interested to hear if you think that Liverpool can make it 7 from 7.
Yeah, I reckon this is really difficult here because Chelsea have started a lot better than what I thought they would, even with the 0-0 draw away at West Ham. And these teams met in the midweek in the League Cup, hey? And Chelsea won 2-1 at Anfield. they both made a number of changes as you'd expect for that competition, and it'll be different personnel out there now, but certainly doesn't do Chelsea's confidence any harm. And the winning goal, I don't know if you saw the winning goal, Eden Hazard, terrific goal, man.
Brilliant.
Now, this guy's on fire at the moment, hey? This brings me to my bet. I mean, normally we'll come to it at the end, but when you say, like, what do I really fancy? You know, here's a guy on absolute fire at the moment. 14 to 10 to score any time. I think that's great.
That's Hazard to score at any time. And if you had to get pushed into a result on this game, do you think Liverpool can win it? Or I mean, the fact that you think Hazard's going to score probably has you leaning towards Chelsea getting something here?
I think if you said I'm restricted to a bet on the match result, I'd go with a draw.
Right, the
draw.
The draw just over 5-2. Yeah, I don't have any strong opinions on that one yet, but I do like your anytime goal scorer pick there at 14 to 10. Chris, that's the end of Saturday's fixture. So let's move on. One lone game on Sunday. We'll also just touch very briefly on Monday's game, but we'll probably carry that in a separate preview. Yeah. Cardiff up against Burnley. Now, we had Vinal and Naidu at the start of the show saying there, and I mentioned it, that he likes Burnley here at a touch over 2-1 to beat what he says is a very disappointing Cardiff side. And Chris, before you even come in there, I've got to tell you that's exactly what I was thinking this weekend.
Great. Well, I'm happy to say we're all on the same page. When I started researching this one, and of course Sunday's game, I left right while the end. Cardiff, no wins, 2 draws, 4 defeats. Like Huddersfield, we're mentioning only 3 goals. And you got to worry, you know, when teams can't find the net, man, you've got to worry for them, you know. Now, Burnley, awful start. Last week, I don't know whether it was Vin, but somebody mentioned, hey, remember that Burnley are out of the Europa League now, and maybe it's time for them to start climbing the league. And they put Bournemouth, who, in my book, are not a bad side. They put Bournemouth away 4-0, so they're going to take plenty from that. They did get rolled in League Cup in midweek, away at Burton, which would be a worry because Burton's a League One team. But I'm presuming that they probably rang the changes and played their reserve side, or you know. And is it really their ambition anyway? You know, given that they really need to get some Premier League points and get out of trouble. And when I thought about it, you know, they're like, yeah, man, I'd rather back Burnley, who've scored 4 goals in 1 game last week, which is more than what Cardiff have scored all season. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm with Vin, I'm with you, and it's growing on me, and even more so seeing as you guys are in agreement.
I must say, this one, we're going to have to think very carefully about our bet for tomorrow's usually there, but this one's certainly coming in as a contender there at just over 2-1. We both like Burnley. Chris, I haven't really had a chance yet to look at Bournemouth against Crystal Palace on Monday night. We'll do a separate preview, but just perhaps from your side before we get into the MTN8, anything stand out there for you?
Yeah, Gary at GG, he likes goals when Bournemouth play. I think I certainly get that impression. He was on the mark the other week when they beat Leicester 4-2. Yes. Palace, Bournemouth have been good for goals in terms of, you know, total goals in their matches. Not the case at Palace though. Over 2.5 when I looked earlier today, Brent, was 15 to 20, which seemed, yeah, you know, I wouldn't want to go any shorter, but at the moment that's probably where I'd lean.
Right. Sorry, over 2.5.
Yeah, total goals either way. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't made up my mind there. One thing I would be looking at is both teams to score, but just looking there 13 to 20 might be a bit short. I'll apply a bit of mind to it over the weekend, and we'll come up with something perhaps in a preview on Sunday night on that one. Let's just have a look at the comments column. Vin has been very active, and I say Vin, he certainly does keep an eye on Europe because he was making note of the fact that City have, of course, got a big game coming up in Europe, so they may rotate. And he was saying that on that basis, he does like your selection there that you've made of the 2-1, 3-1, and 4-1, and plenty of other information on team news as well. Let's move on, though, Chris, to the MTN8 final. It's cup competition, of course, in South Africa. And we've got SuperSport, the defending champions, and they're playing Cape Town City, and the match is taking place at neither of their home base. It's taking place in Durban.
Yeah, taking place in Durban. Same story last season. Went all the way. I think it won 90 minutes. We do play extra time in the final, or we did last year anyway. And then he went to penalties and SuperSport came through. Yeah, this season, you know what? When you look at what Cape Town City have done, I mean, they've knocked out Sundowns, so respect to them. Hey, anybody who's going to knock out Sundowns, you know, they've got to be taken seriously. They won 1-0 in Cape Town, they lost 1-0 away, and then they won the penalty shootout. So they've got form there if it does go all the way. But Supersport, to me, in terms of ABSA Premiership form, a lot more free scoring. They put Black Leopards away 4-0 last Sunday. We were on that one. That was one we did get right. And yeah, I mean, they scored 2 goals away at Pirates, won that one in the quarterfinals of this competition, and won that one on penalty kicks. They drew 2-2 with Chiefs and then won the second leg 1-0. You know, Supersport's more reliable in terms of finding the net, hey? And yeah, just me maybe, but I'll take good attack over good defence, and I'll go with Supersport to win this. And I thought 7-4 I saw to win in 90 minutes. I thought that looked pretty good, Brent.
Yeah, well, I was just realised I was looking at the wrong game. I saw 5-4 and I was still looking at the Bournemouth game. Supersport 7-4 in 90 minutes, same price as Cape Town City. And the draw here, just a fraction over 2-1. And I guess South African games, especially cup competitions, this final last year, I think, did finish 1-1 after the 90 minutes. And then, so you'd have to say, look, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you on Supersport there, but the draw is certainly going to be a run. I can't see more than a goal in it, really.
Yeah, I just think Supersport have got a bit more power, firepower, but also like the cup pedigree. You know, sure, it went to penalties last season when they played City, but they've got an Nedbank Cup under their belts recently, and you know they've been more of a cup side in the last 3-4 seasons than a title challenger. Yeah, and yeah, you know, there's some experienced campaigners there and some good youngsters. They've got a coach who took over at the end of last season when they were really struggling. They wouldn't have even been in this competition had Ajax not been docked points at the end of the season, and the league positions were all rejigged, and suddenly Supersport found themselves in the top 8. They wouldn't have had the chance to defend the trophy. But you know, the guy that took over last year, towards the end of last season, I mean, he's been there 20-odd years, man. He knows this club backwards, you know, and this could be his crowning moment. Right,
so you're going for Supersport then in the MTN8 Cup final. Yeah, I may even still follow you on that. I just thought initially that the draw looked a big runner, and I think whichever way you go, you're going to probably get a run for your money with with those 2 bets, without a doubt. Chris, that's it for the football then this weekend. As we said, no PSL, so a bit of a shorter show. But let's nail up your best bet for everybody.
Right. You know, it's one of those weeks when nothing absolutely stood out, which it normally would. But Eden Hazard anytime, 14-10, I thought was great. I like Arsenal Watford over 3.5 goals.
At evens or just about.
And I like Supersport to win in 90 minutes.
And then we'll throw in Vin's pick there, which I'm also quite bullish on, is Burnley to win their game at just over 2-1.
Let's put that in the value section with an Everton-Fulham draw and a Burnley win at Cardiff on Sunday.
Excellent. Maybe we can put together some nice multiples there. Just before we knock off, Kaya Maseti's also just mentioning, watch out for the cup final hangover. And here's another punter who's looking ahead. He's saying Vitson Polokwane are next up, obviously, for us, for Supersport in Cape Town City next week. And he says perhaps an opportunity to take advantage of a cup final hangover. And I wonder if he's thinking in terms of both teams, or maybe the team that wins, it's going to be perhaps some more hungover after a night of partying. But a very good point, you know, in football, to look back, like Vin did with Burnley. They were involved in Europe. Now they're not anymore. They'll be able to focus on things. And here, a similar strategy with the South African football, to say the other teams are going to be well rested come Tuesday with midweek action. But these 2 teams have been in cup action, and it may well enable us to get a better price and take advantage of that in the midweek.
Yeah, now Kaya, he knows his football, and especially his South African football, and that's a really good point, because there is a full midweek program. And you know, when I've seen the pitch at Moses Mabhida Stadium at Durban there, it looks like one of those energy-sapping pitches. I've not seen the weather forecast for this weekend or whatever, but you know, I mean, you fancy the draw, and that could well be the case. And you know, he goes all the way, takes the legs out of these guys, and then 2-3 days later, they're playing the more bread and butter PSL matches. So that's a really good point to look out for there. And there might even be some betting out for those midweek games now. If not, they will be out there very soon.
Well, good news is there certainly is, because Kaya's actually just posted his bet. He says Wits 15-10 against Cape Town City.
Charge.
They're going in. Peter Paul just asked him if he was talking about Manchester City's. Definitely Cape Town City on Tuesday in the PSL. Hey, Chris, thanks very much for joining me on the show. And just thanks to the guys who got involved in the live chat as well. Always nice to have. The nice thing about the show, of course, is if you missed it, you can watch a recording. And Chris, a big weekend of sport punting ahead for you. And I'm sure you're focusing on the footy.
I'm focusing on the footy, although to be honest, Brent, I do like the Sharks Plus. I was listening to the handicap show earlier. I think I heard you mention you were sweet on the box early on, early in the week, and then maybe getting a little bit nervous now. And you know, having seen the team that they put out, and you know, you see the Wallabies there. They've got 3 big players playing this weekend that weren't there when they beat the Box in Brisbane a couple of rounds ago. You know, so but I still fancy the Box minus, and I certainly fancy the Sharks minus. And yeah, the remote control will be getting hammered with the channel hopping on Saturday.
Not to mention the Ryder Cup golf. So yeah, plenty. Stay close to us on the Good for the Game forum. We'll have golf tips coming each day. The rugby thread is always humming. You've got the likes of Henrik Swart coming in with his New Zealand plays, which have been very successful. And thanks, as I say, everyone, for joining us. You can subscribe to the videos below the show. And otherwise, we'll be back next week, Thursday night at 10. Thank you very much, Chris, and we'll chat soon.
Sure, Brent. Thank you.